Hello and welcome to today's lesson. Today's lesson I'm going to be showing you how to use the TI-84 Plus to answer questions in the Study Island lesson Parent Graphs and Transformations and under the Algebra 2 Standard 2.1a. And so what I've done is I've gone into the lesson and pulled examples of the problems that can be done using the graphing calculator only. So this is a way that you can check yourself, or if you get completely stuck on a problem, a skill you can fall back onto so that you can still do well on the EOI. I highly recommend that you maybe write down some notes and try these problems on your own so that you can practice it and get it into your memory, because all these different types of problems use different features of the calculator, and it can be a lot to remember unless you practice it and just hone that skill. This first question says, in which direction must the graph of f of x equal log of x be shifted to produce the graph of g of x equals log of x minus 3? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to graph both of these and see if the graph is shifted left, up, right, or down. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on my calculator, and I'm going to go to y equals, and I'm going to clear out everything that's already in there. And then I'm just going to type both of these graphs into y1 and y2. So y1 is, I'm going to use the first one, the f of x, and I just put everything here after the function notation or to the right of the equal sign. So I'm going to put in log of x, and here is my log button, log, beside the 7, so I'm going to press log, and then it already gives me the parenthesis, so then I press x and end the parenthesis. And then for my y2, I'm going to put in g of x. So once again, I just type in what is right of the equal sign. So I'm going to press log, and then x minus 3, and parenthesis. And now when I go to graph these, I want to be able to know which one of these was the original and which one was my second one. So I'm going to right arrow over until I have the cursor blinking right before y2, and I'm going to press enter. And you can keep pressing enter to change it into different things, but I think the wisest one is just press it once and change it into a thicker line. And this way I can just need to remember that the first graph is a skinny line and the second graph is a thick line. And so then I'm just going to, you can press graph. I like to do it this way. I like to press zoom and then choose the 6th choice standard just so I know that's a 10 by 10 window. And then if I need to zoom out or in later, I can. And so here, I remember that my first graph was this skinny one and my second graph was this thick one. So I noticed that the skinny one starts right here and the thick one starts right there. So that starting point is shifted to the right. And if you wanted to get a closer look, you could just press zoom and press zoom in, which is choice 2. And then I want to zoom in around here. So I'm going to just move it to where I want the screen to be centered using your arrow buttons. And so I want it to be centered right there where that flashing X is, and I press enter. So just so I can get a bit better view to make sure I'm right, there's the original. And then there's the new one. So I can see that it has just been shifted to the right. So my final answer here is going to be C. And number 2, it gives me the original graph and then asks me which of the following answers shifts it 9 units to the left. So I'm going to go back to y equals. And that first one already has log of x in it, so I don't need to type it again. But I'm going to go ahead and clear out y2 and just try each of these answers. So if there's one that you're suspicious is the answer, try that one first, and if it doesn't work out, then just try another one. So once again, I'm going to change y2 to a thicker line, so I know that the answer I'm checking out is the thicker line, and I'm just going to start with A and work down. So I'm going to type log, parenthesis, x, and parenthesis, and I didn't need that first parenthesis, I just went back and deleted it, and then minus 9. And so I'm going to do zoom standard, just so I know that I'm in that 10 by 10, negative 10 to positive 10. There's my first graph, and there's my second graph. So this one looks like it was shifted down. From skinny to thick, that graph was pushed down. And so here it's asking for left, not down, so it's not going to be choice A. So I'm just going to go back to y equals and try choice B. So choice B just has a +9 instead of a -9, so I'm just going to type a plus over the minus and graph that and see what that looks like. So there's my original being graphed, and then there is my second graph, the answer I'm testing out, and from the original skinny to the second graph, the thick, it's shifted up. And so it's not shifted left, so B is not going to be my answer. So I'm going to go ahead and try C. So I'm going to go back to y equals. I don't need to change the first one, just the second one. And in C, it's in the parentheses, it's +9. So I'm just going to type over that. The part that needs to change, I double check that everything looks right, and then I press graph. And so it's going to graph that original first, and then my second one in the thicker. So the original one was right here, and my second one was right here. So it looks like it took the original and shifted it over to the left for the second one. And so since that one shifted left, that's going to be my final answer, which is C. And number 3, I am looking at the same type of problem, but this time instead of a log, it's a cube root function. So I'm just going to be typing in a cube root into the y equals part instead of a log. So I'm going to clear these all out, being mindful that when I clear out y2, that changes it back to skinny. So I'm going to have to change it to a thick line. And then I'm just going to type x and then caret button 3 for x cubed. And then I go down to y2, and I'm going to change that to a thick line. And then I type in the second graph. And so I changed it to thick, and I'm going to go over here and type in the second graph, and that's going to be x. But first I'm going to put parentheses x minus 8 in parentheses, and then caret button 3. Right arrow out of it, and I have them both typed in. So I'm going to go ahead and graph that, and I just want to make sure I have it in that standard window still, so I use zoom 6. There's my first graph, nice and skinny. And there's my second graph, thick. So when I look at the first graph to the second graph, it's shifted to the right. So to get from first to second, I move right. So that means my answer here is going to be A. Number 4, I am now going to look at when it's being shifted up and down and left or right. As I look at my answers, there's both ways. So I'm going to go ahead and press y equals and clear these out. And I'm going to go ahead and type in that first equation, which is e to the x. So e to the x is above the ln symbol, so I'm going to press second e and then type in the x. And then right arrow out of it, and then I'm going to do the same thing for the second one. I'm going to change that second graph to a thick line, so I have my cursor blinking over the line, and I press enter once. And then I'm going to do second e parenthesis x plus 7 end parenthesis, and I'm done typing in the exponent, so I'm going to right arrow out of it and type -3. And then I'm going to go ahead and press zoom 6 just to make sure I'm in that standard window. And there it graphs my first one, and here it graphs my second one. So I'm looking at it, and from the original to the second one, I go over to the left and down to get that same graph. So I'm looking for an answer that says left and down. And the only one that says left and down is choice B, so that's going to be my answer. This next problem here is similar, only this is with a square function or quadratic function. And so I'm going to go to y equals, and I'm going to clear these out. And then I'm going to go back up to y1 and type in x squared, so x squared. And then I go down, and I want to change this line to thick, so I press enter, scroll back over, and then I type in my second one. And that's going to be parenthesis x minus 6 end parenthesis squared minus 4. And then I'm going to go ahead and graph those. There's the first graph in the skinny, and then my second graph in the thicker. So to go from my first graph to my second graph, I have to shift over to the right and down. And so my only answer that has right and down, there's two here, and that's C and D. So to be able to figure out, okay, is it 4 units down or 6 units down, you can kind of look at it. Remember, since I use the zoom standard, each of these tick marks is going to be 1. So if I look at the vertex of the parabola to the vertex of the parabola, if I count them, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 down. So I can just count them so that it's 6 to the right and 4 down. So the one that says that is choice C. In number 7 here, it asks, which of the following is a parent function of the graph above? So I need to know that parent function just means that I'm looking for which one of these graphs has the same shape. It might be shifted up, right, left, or down, but it's going to be the same shape. So I just have to try out each of these answers and see which one has a graph that matches the same shape, just not necessarily the same location. So I'm going to clear that out and go back to y equals and clear those out. This time I'm only going to be using y1. So my choice A here is x squared. So I'm going to type in x squared and I'm going to press graph. And that graph is the shape of a U. It doesn't look like this one, so it's not going to be A. So I go back to y1 and try choice B, which is log of x. I press log x and parenthesis, and I still have stuff here that I need to delete out. I should have pressed clear at the beginning. And then I go ahead and press graph. And here, that one kind of looks like it. If I go ahead and zoom in, and I'm going to leave that cursor in the middle because I just want to zoom it into the middle. There I can see it starts out and it actually looks pretty close because it could be dropping in really close to the y-axis and I couldn't see, just like here it's dropping in really close to 2. So I'm going to say, okay, it could be B, but I want to go ahead and try C and D just to double check. So I'm going to go to y equals and press clear and do 4 up arrow x graph. And see there, it still left it in that zoomed in screen, which is okay. I can see here that it's starting out flat and then increasing, whereas this one increases very rapidly and then starts to go flat. So it's not going to be C. And then I'm going to go ahead and try D. So I'm going to clear that out and do x caret button cubed, enter. And then I'm going to go back to that zoom standard so that I have the screen that I'm used to seeing. And here, that's the cubic function. It looks like a snake. So that's not the same shape. So my answer is definitely going to be B. This next question is similar. It's asking for the parent function of the graph. So that means I'm just looking for which one of these answers is going to have the same shape of the graph. So it's going to be the original one, and I'm looking this, and this is going to be the shifted one. So different location, same shape. So I'm going to go back to y equals and clear it out and try letter B, A, just like I did the first time with the first question that we just did. So 3 caret button X gets that letter A typed in. And then I press zoom 6 to get that standard window of -10 to 10 on both of them. And here it looks like it starts out flat and then starts to increase. Just like this one here starts out flat and starts to increase. So it's most likely going to be A, but I want to go ahead and check my other choices just to make sure. So I'm going to go to y equals and press clear and type in letter B, which is x cubed. And then I press graph. And that one increases, steadies out, and then goes back to increasing. So not the same shape as what I'm given in the problem. And then I'm going to try x squared. So I'm going to press y equals and clear it out and press x squared and graph that. And that one is a U shape, so definitely not the same shape as the problem. And then I'm going to try the log. So I'm going to press y equals and I'm going to clear that out and press log x in parentheses and graph that. And this one increases really fast and then levels out. So it's not the same shape as D. So that means that A is definitely going to be my final answer. Thank you for joining us today, and I hope you learned something new.